Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ramble. I am your humble hermit host, Maria Legier, and I regret to inform you that the gig is up. Well, my dearest gentlemen of the patriarchy, the gig is up. It's done. We've been caught with our trousers down and our balls in our mouths. Our global domination is at an end. The United Nations, in their infinitesimal wisdom, have seen fit to inform us through a tweet from a twat that the COVID-19 pandemic is demonstrating what we all know. Millennia of a patriarchy have resulted in a male-dominated culture which damages everyone. Women, men, girls and boys. End quote. Followed by some snoot waffling quote by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, which goes as follows. Quote, "This is the time to rebuild more equal, inclusive and resilient societies." End quote. Now, I don't know about you, gentlemen, but I fail to see the connection between the patriarchy and the comic cough. Maybe just me being blinded by my male privilege and abhorrent hatred of all things feminine and good and decent and pure, of course, and as expected. But would one not assume that there is but a slight gust of opportunism in this tweet? A sort of kind of pandemic panic magic being used to spread an agenda that has little to nothing to do with a pandemic. Lest one, of course, goes down the route that refers to this as a plandemic. Cue dramatic music. Cue tinfoil hats. Cue the reptilian elite. And such. Plandemic or no, the foul stench of outright opportunism still hovers over this tweet and the twat who tweeted it. As if some simpering imbecile or palm-rubbing feminist of the highest order was sat down one day, thinking, how can I make this global crisis which sees men dying far more than women about patriarchy and feminism and, as such, about women and all that other hip and trendy stuff that is in vogue at the moment, powerless though it is. As powerless, you see, as women clearly are and feminism most definitely is, according to the gobsmackingly insane and delusional followers of the serpent cult, I find it strange and peculiar how often these giant and powerful organizations keep spouting feminist nonsense and pushing forth feminist resolutions. Had I not known any better due to my tireless and mostly thankless toil for the powers of the patriarchy, I would have been inclined to believe that women and feminism wield an incredible amount of power and influence, be that the soft social power or the hard political power. But that cannot be, surely, given how oppressed they are and how poorly they are doing. And no wonder, of course, since all is built and constructed by this nefarious and obscure group of men. Men, according to the UN, are quite incapable of building and maintaining equal, inclusive and resilient societies. Yet, it is not about hating men, even when men are responsible for all that is wrong in the world. Except those few good men who have swallowed the feminist dogma. Being equal, inclusive and resilient. Now, that is the domain of women. Or, well, no, that is not true either. That is the domain of feminism, the gynocracy. Only feminism and their token smurf herders and donkey defilers are capable of building equal, inclusive and resilient societies. I also have to wonder whether these people have ever spent any time in the presence of women. It appears as though they have not, given that they seem incapable of understanding that women are quite capable of being mean, wicked, false, petty, weak, thin-skinned and outright evil. That is to say, everything that is contrary to equality, inclusivity and resilience. Not to mention the ultimate weapon employed by the girl bullies, the mean girls of school, freezing someone out, making them an outcast, a pariah, one not to be spoken to or treated with any kindness whatsoever, for fear of the same happening to those who would lower themselves to being nice and friendly with said pariah. Women, just as men, are human beings, thus granted the same flaws and faults and such that comes with being human. And this is a shock and a surprise without a doubt. But that's what you'll get when once the blindfold is torn from your eyes and you realize that women are not some fucking angelic creatures higher up the evolutionary ladder than men are. Though, I suspect, this mean and wicked behavior by women is also the fault of the patriarchy, in essence men, given that blah 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 and yada yada yada. The equality, inclusivity and resilience is made manifest in their holy image by disregarding and shitting on boys and men, as that is the hallmark of all that is equal and inclusive. Which goes without saying, obviously. given that feminism, in its imperceptibly flawless word salad, named all that is bad in the world after men, while simultaneously stating that it is not about hating men, it is fairly obvious what manner of inclusivity and equality and resilience that is in vogue. The one which seeks to disregard boys and men in the name of inclusive equality and its resilience. An interesting way to view the aforementioned concepts, one could say, though it is not without its own internal logic. See, there are no biological differences between men and women, except when it suits feminism, and so naming all that is bad and wrong and beset by blue meanies in the world after men does not mean naming it after men, except when it does. It means naming it after the concept of masculinity. That mainly men are masculine is of no matter and little consequence to the internal logic, because that is all socialized into boys and socialized out of girls, and so even girls and women can suffer from toxic masculinity, which of course is the fault of the patriarchy, which is to say men and boys, even when it isn't to say men and boys, because that is nothing but a concept conjured forth by the puss-infested paws of the patriarchy. And so, one assumes that those who are socialized into being feminine are better suited to be leaders, builders and maintainers of the kindness and the equality and the inclusivity and the resilience. And this does not necessarily mean women, even when it does, which clearly is a damned godsend to the men who subscribe to the dogma of the serpent cult, as this means that they have no reason or any inclination to give up their seats of power, given that they are of the true tribe and of the true flab and role. They are not men as such. They are honorary women, perhaps, or mayhaps, and maybe feminist goons, sucking on the giant clitoris of the great quivering pussy in the sky whilst being heavily sodomized via strap-ons by the clique and nest of pecking hens that shout fuckface. And all the men that buckle down and accept the sodomy and degradation are whipped and degraded and begging for more, like true masochists are known to do. Not that I'm judging, mind you. I have not a kink-shaming bone in my body, damned degenerate bastard that I am. God bless the hysteria, the delusion, and the madness, the holy trinity of this day and age. Honk, fucking honk. Now, dance for your masters and your mistresses. Dance, I tell you. Dance. After all, it is better than weeping. And that, I think, was that for this ramble. I hope you enjoyed it more than my previous ramblings. Thank you very much for listening. Please check out the links down below if you wish to stalk me on social media or support this blog, channel, my growing insanity and my caffeine dependence. And that was that. I'm your humble host, Maria Legier, signing off.